Energy Policy and Grants for the AI for Energy Solutions course at MIT. I'm Catherine Hopkins. I live in Concord, Massachusetts, not too far away, and serve on the Climate Action Committee for the town, and we're reviewing the Climate Action Plan, and I serve on the subcommittee for the Geothermal Network. I also am working with a startup called Investiture, where I head up the financial wellness team, and it is a retirement advisory and financed emissions platform for organizations who would like to sustainably invest their retirement plans. As part of the Climate Action Committee, I wanted to make a tool to optimize site selection for a network geothermal project. Why would I want to do that? Well, in Massachusetts, we're the first state in the nation to pilot networked geothermal. So that would be sort of a neighborhood-wide commercial residential mix at utility scale. And there's one in Framingham and Lowell with Eversource and National Grid Utilities. If existing gas infrastructure and utilities like this take on installation and upfront CapEx, then it could become a game-changing clean energy source. It's a really efficient energy source, and it can help shave the peak. So I used Jen's Canvas here to ideate and thought about user inputs being sort of site specifications, and then putting in web apps like Google Maps or other map software, and then other data around geothermal projects to draw from, and then putting in a prompt. And then ideally, it would show anybody at the state, town level what might be a good pilot project site based on those requirements. Well, unfortunately, that proved to be way too challenging due to lack of access to things like utility and municipal data. And then there's just too many context-specific variables. It became a little bit above my pay grade. So I pivoted and thought to myself, given the sort of turmoil in the last few weeks around changes in energy policy and grants and what's even allowed and not allowed, I thought, well, would these existing policies and incentives even exist for geothermal under this new administration? I think the answer is yes, but I began to brainstorm what would be useful for towns like mine to navigate this challenging landscape. And just today, there was just another headline: the White House orders federal aid freeze. I don't think this will impact Department of Energy and existing projects and those down the pipeline, but who knows? There's really been a hard stop on federal aid. So what to next? So I did a little bit more brainstorming around what this would look like from an AI perspective and what the impact would be. Ideally, we just wanted to create efficiencies and grant wayfinding and increase the number of renewable energy projects. So then I went back to the drawing board, used this AI canvas, thought about what kind of simple inputs the user could do, like what kind of energy source, wind, solar, geothermal. It could really use, be any energy source. Obviously, the goal is renewable energy and clean energy. Location is at the state level, and then the type could be municipal, utility, R&D. I guess it could be residential or individual as well. Plugged in some websites to scrape, energy.gov, grants.gov to look for funding. And then the new site that just went up, Unleashing American Energy, that went up in January of 2025. I put in a prompt, and then the ideal would be to get federal and state policies, available funding and websites, and then existing incentives. I went back to Claude, Jen's suggestion, and used that to help revise my prompt and make it better. And of course, it, created ideas for doing a drop down for energy source. And that way, even though it could be used for oil and gas, that we're just sort of narrowing the options to renewable and clean energy, and gave me other ideas as well. So what's the solution? State energy policy and grants in a new era. I created a form through Stack AI, and I can do a quick demo. So here it is. I don't have the whole thing, but here we go. I can put in solar, wind, hydro, biomass, nuclear. You can't actually see geothermal at the end. I'll click on it. And then there's the state and then the type. So I'm going to do Massachusetts because that's where we all are. Hopefully I spelled it right. And then again, you can choose residential, commercial, or R&D. I'm going to go ahead and actually choose R&D because I haven't done that yet. Let's see if it works. And then the submit button says grants and policies. Again, we're looking at legislation and hopefully funding sources. It does take a while. So what I will say before moving on is that this has been really surprising and fun and effective. I will say, though, given how quickly things are changing, as well as like in the geothermal pilot, where I pivoted, there's so many context-specific plans and activities and groups that help fund these projects. One is called the Climate Leaders through the Massachusetts Clean Energy, and that did not come up in this search. Let's see, what do we have here? We have federal policies. It provides things like renewable electricity production tax credit, and it gives the website for each one. This modified accelerated cost recovery system, Department of Energy Geothermal Technologies office. So there's actually an office there. The Earthshots initiative for energy, and then it goes down to the state level. And it talks about the fact that Massachusetts is piloting these things that I talked about, which is quite exciting. And there's new acts, and then, of course, available funding. It's unclear to me whether this funding is actually up to date, but that's what this tool is for, is to try to scrape anything that's new that's coming online. So that's the tool. And now you saw a sample output. Here's a sample output for solar, Pennsylvania, and residential. I made a blog post. I won't go into that, talking about just sort of the rationale and ideas around this project. Risk management, as I said, it's not necessarily comprehensive enough due to both rapid changes, but also needing to scrape at a more municipal level. So in order to mitigate that, reach out to, validate the results, run multiple searches in different scenarios, which I've done, adding more data and sources as they come online, and then really just kind of communicating limitations of the tool to the end users. So my next steps are going to share this with the Climate Action Committee in Concord. Really what I've learned about is the prompt. The prompts are really important. Identifying the problem is a huge part of it, and then the solution is a big part of it, and really spending time on refining what you're trying to get out of it, and then refining the prompt. The prompt engineering is very key to this project, and then progress. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing any feedback.